Shalom. All praises to the Heavenly Father. Hatun Apukhuya. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Huaka. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe, in the name of Hamashiach. Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. So guys, we are continuing our investigation in this illustrious one-of-a-kind series that I'm definitely being led by the Holy Spirit to do. This might be interesting for people who are watching this, 6 months from now, a year from now, or even longer than that, because they might come across some of the same stuff and they might be like, wow, I don't know how this guy is like digging into all these different things. My answer to you, viewer in the future, is that this is not coming from me. This is not coming from me. This is just information that needs to be revealed, for we are in the time of the great revealing. Now, today we're actually going to look into an article that was written by this brother, Nats Onoja Agbo. And this article is titled Edom equals Idoma. Now, to look into this brother, he is actually from the Idoma people himself. So in part 2, I shared with you someone who is from the Idoma people, share who his people descend from and who they are related to. Now, I want to share a little bit more about this person. He's actually a journalist, a writer, things of that sort. He does really good research if you look up his material. But sadly, about 3 years ago, this brother was killed. And there's no further information on him. Veteran Idoma-born journalist Nats Agbo is dead. And that's all I can find. Now, the reason why I said he was murdered is because this is just something, and of course that's like my opinion, but this is just like usually the excuse that is listed when people are bringing out truth, that they battle with an unknown ailment. I call it like the Easy-E syndrome. So he passed away on Thursday after a protracted battle with unknown ailment. So that's what happened to him. May the brother rest in love. Right? And when I mean brother, I literally do mean brother. I literally do mean brother. Now, before we dig into this article, I want to share one more thing with you guys. And we'll probably go deeper into the Yoruba as well as the Ido, the Beni people in the next part. But in this part, I just want to bring this up real quick, and you guys can look into it yourselves. The Yoruba kingdoms are descendants of Oduduwa, who we've covered before. Now, I thought that was Abraham, and it could still represent Abraham in some sort of way, but my opinion has changed. I'm not really sure who this person is. Some people say it's Nimrod, some people say it's Abraham, but I have a different theory on who it is. Let's continue. Who originally settled at Ili Ifi. His 7 sons formed the 7 Yoruba kingdom, which were later split into 14 due to incessant war among them. The seat of government moved from Ili Ifi to Oyo, and the rulers of the 7 kingdoms was regarded as the Alafin of Oyo. Oyo Empire was the prominent Yoruba kingdom when the white man arrived in Yoruba land. So we definitely have to dig into the Oyo Empire and stuff like that. We're gonna get into all this, man. I thought that this series was gonna be a lot shorter. This might be a 15-16 part series, if I'm being honest with you. But I want to pay attention to the 7 sons. His 7 sons formed the 7 Yoruba kingdoms. The 7 sons of Oduduwa. Now, going back to what we've been finding in West Africa, how many of these places seem to link up with the inhabitants and descendants of Seir. what I'm about to show you next might not surprise you very much. Because you know who also had 7 sons? Seir, the Horite. Seir, from a root meaning bristle up, possibly referring to wooded hills, or possibly meaning bristled up, shudder, and horror. So another thing, people don't really know what this comes from or what it means. Some people think that it means hairy, and now we have it mean bristled up or something like that. So I don't know. But a Horite, and we've gone over what a Horite is. To recap, a Horite is the mixture between the Hivites and the sons of Abraham. But the reason why they're called Horites is because they're worshippers of Horus. So they're called Horites. Not because they're hairy. It's because they worship Horus. Anyway, whose 7 sons were sheiks. And the reason why they're calling them sheiks is because they think it's in the Middle East. But now that we know where the Holy Land is, that it is in the Americas, and the land of Edom is to the east as well as to the south, now we know what it's talking about. In the land of Seir, prior to its being occupied by Esau or Edom. So the sons of Esau, they went and they entrenched upon the descendants of Seir. Whether the 7 sons of Seir were immediate offspring or included later descendants is uncertain. Well, now let's get to the book of Jasher. And Seir, the son of Hur, son of Hivi, son of Canaan, went and found a valley opposite to Mount Paran. He built a city there. He and his 7 sons and his household dwelt there. And he called the city which he built Seir, according to his name. That is, the land of Seir unto this day. His 7 sons, Seir, and his built a city. He and his 7 sons dwelt there. Now that sounds eerily similar to Idu, his 7 sons, when he built the city of Ifi, or Ifi Ali. I don't remember how to say it. Let me see. How do you say it again? Ifi. And I believe that this is actually called the Holy City of the Yoruba, as Idu was the person who built the city. And to give you Google Earth on where I think it is, because it said that it was on the opposite of Mount Paran. And now we get to this place. It's called the Idanri Hills, and I think on the next part we'll go a little bit more into that, because that's not what it was called originally. And right here we have Ifi. So are these the place locations? I don't know. But that's what I wanted to show you for that. Let's get into the article. There would certainly be discordant notes when the issue of whether the Idoma speaking peoples of Nigeria are descended from Esau, who is called Edom, is raised. In other words, could there be any historical link between the Idoma and the biblical Edom? Only very few people would give the researcher any hearing air over such an issue. The reasons are legion, but the most obvious is the hatred built up against Esau and his descendants in the Bible. And hey, the scriptures needs context. The same way how there were wicked Israelites, there are righteous Edomites, and vice versa. Right? The Edomites that we were talking about were the ones who were doing wicked to us. But that does not mean that everyone who is a descendant of a certain seed line or a group of people are all wicked. Well, that's not the case. It's not. It's not. So that might stop people from thinking that, okay, wow, like they can't be Esau. Esau is supposed to be our mortal enemy. Not necessarily. Esau chose to do that, but that's not what that's not in their blood to do that, right? That was his choice, and his children, that they might follow that same wicked spirit, or some might not. That's up to them. It's up to that individual. They can break the cycle whenever they want to. That's why you must judge people as individuals. We could talk about them in groups, but ultimately judge them as individuals. You know? The tempestuous relationship between the descendants of Esau and those of Jacob was predicted on the age-old conflict between the two estranged brothers. According to the authors of the African Bible, the Edomites were always bitter enemies of the Jews, perpetuating the enmity of Esau and Jacob, and were always willing to assist in attacking army. That's true. It's true. I'm not going to lie. That doesn't mean all of them, but they did do that. The orchestrated attack on the Edomites was further amplified during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. And we've gone over where the Babylonians are. So they're close. The fact that they have such a close proximity, as well as a very similar culture to the Babylonians, the true Babylonians, the warrior kings, the empire of Ghana, the empire of gold, empire of Mali, who connect to the Olmec, these Africans, these Cushites. Yes, Esau was there with them, destroying our stuff. It's true. Were all of them there? I can't say that. And when we go over the movie Black Panther, I'll try to make a little bit more connections with how, they're really talking about Esau's history. They're not really talking about our history. They're talking about, Cush, his history. They're not talking about, that's not ancient Israel. That's ancient Kemet. But people, they could, it's a good movie still. But we're going to have to talk about, truth. Esau bashing became an obsession for Israeli prophets, that the whole prophecy of Obadiah was targeted at the Edomites, who will be humbled because of your violence against your brother Jacob. Now, the ironic part is that Obadiah was probably an Edomite himself, right? As we went over a few videos ago. The Most High, he usually sends people of their own to warn them. He's not going to send an Israelite to tell the children of Edom about their wicked ways. That's not what he does. That's not usually what he does. He sends our own people. For the Israelites, he sent Israelites. In the Book of Mormon, for the Jaredites, he sent what? A Jaredite. For the Moabites, he had Baalam, right? So it would make sense that Obadiah himself actually was a descendant of Esau, but he was, someone who was righteous, someone who was humble. Said prophet Obadiah on the charges against the Edomites: because of your violence to your brother Jacob, disgrace shall cover you, and you shall be destroyed forever. On the day when you stood by, on the day when strangers carried off his possessions, and strangers entered his gates and cast lots over Jerusalem, you were one of them. For prophet Obadiah, the judgment against Esau, which he delivered with much venom, was emphatic, as he said, for near is the day of the Lord for all the nations. As you have done, shall it be done to you. Your deed shall come back upon your head. And the more that I think about it, when it's talking about thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, it's talking about he's talking about like a group of people who keep hiding. They keep hiding behind people. Like, they're always throwing these people in front of us as the enemies when it was actually them the whole time. I think that's what it's talking about, because it talks about how they would hide in the dens and the holes and stuff. Why? Why are they hiding? Because they're guilty. They did something. So when it's talking about thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks and stuff like that, I don't think it's talking about white troglodytes, bro. Like, I think it's talking about these Moors that are hiding behind everything. These chameleons. That's my opinion, but like, it's not what it seems like, bro. And then he just goes over, like, Edomite history. The thing is that he's also connecting many of these places over there to the Middle East. So he doesn't really know where these places are. At least in my opinion, because I say that they're over here in the Americas, right? Of course, that's my opinion. And according to his opinion, it's over there in the Middle East. So just note that. Between Edom and Idoma, From the foregoing, there is certainly no need for anyone to be ashamed or afraid of any relationship with the Edomites. It is instructive that though Isaac would not withdraw the blessings he had poured on Jacob reverently in error, he still assured Esau that he would one day regain his freedom from his brother's stronghold. He said to Esau, "Ah, far from the fertile earth shall be your dwelling, far from the dew of heavens above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But when you become I don't know. Restrive? I don't know. I've never seen that word. You shall throw off his yoke from your neck." Now, it does sound like it's talking about so-called white people. It does. But that's why I said not all Esau, is really one thing. If you read the book of Yahshua, as you read a few parts ago, that goes over how Esau started to mix in with these cave dwellers and stuff like that. And they were mixing ever since we first started conquering the land of Canaan. So it was a while ago. There's been a lot of mixing with the seed line of Cain and the children of Esau from the empire of Carthage, things of that sort. By every standard, Esau or Edom fulfilled his father's prophecy because, as would be seen later, he outpaced his brother Jacob in raising a family, creating bonds of fellowship with other tribes through marriages, and evolved a complex political system that was admired even by the Israelites, who then carved or craved for a king. It is all true. Having achieved so much with his children and descendants, it should not be strange to observe that, having broken the chains of subjugation early enough, Edom was able to dominate his world and subjugate others, including the Egyptians, over whom the Edomites ruled for about 100 years. Now, he's saying that because he thinks that the Hyksos of the Edomites, I don't think so. I think the Nubians were those people, because the Nubians, as well as the Hyksos, they both can fit either the Israelites or the Edomites. But the difference is that the Hyksos built all those things in Egypt. Then the Nubians were pretty much people who traveled with animals, and they were very rich, right? And I believe they also had kings, but the Hyksos never had kings. So that lets me know that the Hyksos are not really related to West Africans. The Hyksos are related to South Americans, and they even said that we are not Africans, we are Asiatics. So that lets me know that the Hyksos are the Israelites and the Nubians. You know what I'm trying to say. Of course, breaking that chain of bondage meant that Edom and his descendants had been purified and prepared to sip from the Abrahamic promises and the blessings which his brother Jacob treacherously received from their father Isaac. Treacherously, okay. His descendants should therefore be found in the countries where the earth is fat enough, so their dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. Now we'll also go over why those people in the Sinai Peninsula are a mixture of of Ishmael and the Edomites. We'll go over that in another part. It says it in the book of Joshua, and no one caught it, but I'm gonna show it to you. Nigeria certainly fits into that picture because it is rich in mineral and human resources, as well as fertile land for agriculture. What has been lacking is quality leadership that would transform Nigeria into one of the richest countries in the world. It would therefore not be out of place to submit that Esau's descendants migrated from Palestine soon after the Edomites lost to Egypt's king Ahmose I at Shur-hen, and moved into various portions of Africa, including modern Nigeria. So could the Idoma-speaking peoples of Nigeria have been part of these migrating descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau? Again, guys, this is an Idoma person who wrote this and is taking pride in his forefather Edom. He knows he's an Edomite. There's people in Africa who named their children Edom. And as I was going through this article, The points that he made are the exact same points that I made in the series. I did not read this article. So that's how I know. This is how the Most High shows me something. He shows me that I'm on the right path when other people say the exact same thing. The first major pointer in this direction is the claim by some Idoma groups that they are descended from a certain Edom. Of all the tribes in Nigeria today, only the Idoma trace their ancestry to an Edom. According to Iram O, Idu or Edom was the punitive founder and father of the different groups in Idoma land. In his consideration of Yala migrations and settlement, Iram quoted various Idoma groups as saying, Idu, Edom, ? Begot all the Idoma. He also begot the following children. And you have all these different peoples. I'm not going to read all that because it's hard to pronounce. The essential aspect of the narrative above is the obvious reference to Idu as the father of all Idoma. Even if the story has not been fully developed, it shows very clearly that some Idoma groups still have a clear idea of Idu as their ancestral father. It is very likely that Idu was derived from Edom or Edom. And is it a coincidence that the Portuguese call, I keep having to say this, bro, they called that land in Ghana, around that area, they called it Edom. Like, I don't know what more people want. Like, they called it that. They called it that, bro. Because apart from meaning a type of snake, Idu is a common name among Idoma-speaking peoples in Nigeria. Even the reference to Idu Oma in the story narrated by Clement Ogboji, as recorded earlier in this work, points very clearly to a relationship between the Edomites and the Idoma. I gotta check that out. Wow. I gotta check that out, bro. That's crazy. Edom is recognized by various communities and groups in the Middle East. The Hebrews called them Edom, which means red. The Assyrians called them Udumi. Did I not? Wait. Huh? Did I not talk about that? The Assyrians call them Udumi. All these different people have these surnames in Nigeria with these same variations of Edom. And it's all in Nigeria. It's not like most of this stuff is in Nigeria. It's not in the Middle East like that. It is, but it's not as much as Nigeria. Some of it's in India, some of it's in the Middle East, but the vast majority of the references to the children of Esau or Idumea, it's all in Nigeria and Ghana and that Gold Coast, the kingdom of quote unquote Judah that we're gonna go over. Shout out to the good doctor. We're gonna get into that, bro. Just as they are identified as Idumaya and Idumea or Idume in Greek and Latin respectively. Egyptologists equate Edom with Seir or Idoma. Idoma itself is a common name borne by men among the Idoma. Bro, among the Idoma too. Edom itself means my type or my roots, while Adam, the first man in the Bible, means my father. If other groups should have such clear identifications, why would the Idoma not have a clear idea of who their ancestral father was? In identifying the Idoma with the Edomites, many other coincidences come into focus. For instance, the early history of man is recorded in the Bible, finds prominence in Idoma folklore. Prominent in this direction is the pathetic history of Cain and Abel, the first two children of Adam and Eve. While Cain was a farmer, Abel was a shepherd. The two brothers took their offerings to God. That of Abel was, however, more acceptable to the Supreme Being. Upon realizing that his offer was rejected, Cain became envious of his younger brother and eventually killed him in the field. Excuse me. The history of Onugbo and Oko and Idoma folklore is the biblical story of Cain and Abel. While Onugbo means Cain. Oko represents humility. In Alekwu chants, Onukbo and Oko are presented as brothers, the former being the elder. They were also hunters, in its original form presented in Elekwu chants. The story is narrated in both Idoma and Igdala, an indication that it survived several years as it transferred from generation to generation through oral tradition. The lines ran thus, and I ain't saying all this. Now he has a translation. Have been hunting since morning. Oko's gun exploded with a loud sound. Oko has killed a lion. Oko called out to his brother Onukbo, "Come and cleanse me of this blood." The cleansing of Okbo that Onukbo was to Ili. Onukbo's gun exploded with a loud sound. Onukbo has killed Oko, his brother. Wow. According to the story as told by Samsudin Amali in his bilingual play, Onukbo Mil Okbo, their father had enjoined Onukbo as the elder to take care of his younger brother. In fulfillment of his pledge to his father, Onukbo taught his younger brother how to hunt and how to live a responsible life. During the hunting expedition narrated by Alikwu Ifia, Oko found favor with God and killed many animals, thus attracting the envy of his elder brother. The anger was first exhibited when Oko asked for his hunting weapons. Onukbo's reply showed very clearly that he was sorely angry with his younger brother. Said he, "Is it today that I was born? I saw day before you. I inhaled the air of the world before you. I came into this world before you." The younger man was surprised at his brother's anger because the relationship between them had always been very brotherly. No matter the situation, the older brother should be happy that his younger brother was killing animals, because at the end of the hunting expedition, they were likely to share the animals equally. It was therefore a surprised Oko who asked, "What is it? Onukbo, what's the trouble?" Oko did not wait for a reply. He knew his elder brother was angry and could almost feel that anger had enveloped his brother as he observed. Onukbo is thoroughly angry. Onukbo's eyes are boiling. Onukbo's eyes are boiling like boiling water. Anyway, let's skip all this, bro. You guys can read that. Moreover, the struggle between Esau and Jacob that was given prominence in the Old Testament has persisted among the Idoma. Just as the Edomites of old held the Israelites in contempt, so do many tribes in today's world hold the Jews in contempt. To be referred to as a Jew among the Idoma, for instance, attracts negative interpretations. Wow. He could be said to be a betrayer, primitive, or ignorant. If the Idoma had no connection with Edomites, how did they come up with such a position on the Jews? Despite earlier claims that Esau despised God, it is obvious, even from biblical accounts, that he worshipped the true God. Although Baal worship was dominant in Canaan, home to his first two wives, the progenitor of the Edomites did not abandon God, the God of Abraham and Isaac. And that's another thing, guys. How is Esau white when he married like 4 Canaanites, bro? Or he married? No, he didn't marry 4. He married 2. He had 1 concubine, and he had an Ishmaelite. So that doesn't make sense. But anyway, he continued to honor and worship God. He was fervent in his belief that God was the only source of life. In naming his children, for instance, Esau continued to glorify God. His eldest son was Eliphaz, meaning God is his strength, while his second son was called Ruel, meaning friend of God. Others are Jeush, which means to whom God hastens, and Jaliam, which means whom God hides. One of the early chiefs of Edom, who was Esau's son, was called Migdiel, meaning the praise of God. It must be noted, however, that despite claims that the Edomites were despised by God for worshiping foreign gods, Baal worship was not limited to the Edomites. the Israelites were also deeply involved in it. And that's true because they both got tied in with the Canaanites. It's true. That's a great point. And the Old Testament noted that soon after Joshua the son of Nun's death, the people of Israel sinned against the Lord and began to serve the Baal. So we're going to skip this because we know that they were doing Baal worship. It was therefore obvious that the drift into Baal worship was not exclusive to the Edomites. It would appear, and that it should therefore not be strange, that the Idoma as an Edomite group adopted many foreign religions which today expressed in Egli, Echo, I don't know. But that's sun worship or ancestor worship and the earth cult, which is not really, wicked if you're doing it properly. But although everyone has, and whatever this is, worship is prevalent in Idoma society because everybody, including women, could be chosen as his priest. Its main prayer lines, however, recognize God and the earth as supreme. What? Father Sky, Mother Earth? Come on, bro. Thus providing again that they recognize and adore the God of Abraham just as Esau did in his lifetime. A common Njunu prayer runs thus: they gave the sacrifices to the east. The east said they should give it to the west. The west said they should give it to God. God said they should give it to the earth, for earth is senior. Interesting. Despite the presence of these and other gods, the Idoma are generally conscious of a supreme being who oversees everything and everyone or everybody on earth. The supreme being is reverently called Owoicho, meaning my Owo who is up there, my personal God who is up there. Owo in itself also means rain, but for the purpose of its religious connotation among the Idoma, Owoicho means God, the personal God that is above. The Idoma revere God so much that he is never approached directly. He is therefore worshipped through other deities. Owoicho is also a common name among the Idoma. It is in line with biblical injunction that ancestral worship, that word before, is celebrated among the Idoma. It will be recalled that one of the 10 commandments directed at Abraham's descendants to honor their father and mother. Well, that's interesting because people have broken that down to, honor your father and mother can mean Father Sky, Mother Earth. But that's now he's saying that it could mean ancestor worship too, or honoring your ancestors, which is interesting. I never thought of it that way. See, we learning stuff from the twin brother, bro. Like, we lost our stuff. So that's something that I just picked up. Is a festival of penitence, thanksgiving, and purification. Animals are slaughtered and cooked with pounded yam and offered in sacrifice to God, but through the ancestors. Though the sacrifices, each family thanks God for protecting during the past year and for the further protection and prosperity in the years ahead. One other religious practice that seeks to connect the Idoma to the Middle East and the Edomites is the worship of Enyanwu, the god of the sun. There are claims that the worship of the Enyanwu deity was borrowed from the Agbo land in modern Nigeria. And that could make sense because, we already know who the Agbo are related to. No matter its origin, what is clear is that it leads to the conclusion that the Idoma have some direct relationship with the children of Abraham. Even if it is a borrowed religion, as is being suggested, it only confirms to earlier claims that the Idoma, like the Edomites of old, borrowed many religious practices from their neighbors. The Enyanwu shrine is usually a mound built with red earth. On top of the mound is usually a small earthen plate that receives the sacrifices of grains and boiled yams that are soaked in red oil. Now that does sound like they got it from the Agbo. I'm not even gonna lie, because that sounds like what the Israelites were doing. But anyway, because it says like a mound, like it doesn't even say like a pyramid, it says a mound. And that's literally what the Israelites were doing. But in building the mound, the adherent uses 12 stones to provide it with some form of foundation. The researcher is persuaded to believe that those stones represent the 12 tribes of Israel, who, through antagonistic towards the Edomites, wielded a lot of influence among the various tribes that occupied the Middle East, even in ancient times. Well, we know where the true land is. So anyway, the point of being the point being made here is that the Edomites of old, the Idoma, are very religious. Even where they worship what may be termed idols, it is usually to honor the Almighty God who is given many titles. Indeed, the Idoma feel that God is so mighty that it would be improper to approach him directly. Even in human existence, powerful individuals are usually approached through other sources when favors are being sought. One would have thought that with all the tribulations that the Edomites suffered in the hands of various rampaging groups, they would have turned their backs on God, but that they still keep pace with the worship of God is evidence that they are true descendants of Esau. It is instructive that the Edomites adopted divine kingship long before the Israelites. I told you guys this, bro. We did not have kings like that. Like, we only started having kings around Saul. That was way later. That's really like way later, bro. And among the Idoma, the king, called Ochi, is the spiritual leader of the community. He performs religious, social, and political functions. He is the chief priest of Aji, the earth cult. He performs the annual ceremony at the earth shrine, especially at the beginning of the dry season. The essential thing about the ceremony is that it is to ensure free and fair hunting season. The symbolic attachment of the Idoma king to hunting is, to a large extent, reflective of the nature of Esau. It will be recalled that Esau was a great hunter who won the admiration of his father Isaac. Shortly before he would die, Isaac had called Esau to his side and said, "You see that I am old and may die soon. Take your bow and arrows and go out to the country and kill an animal for me. Cook me some of that tasty food that I like and bring it to me. After I have eaten it, I will give you my final blessing before I die." The choice of black and red as the official colors of the Idoma is also indicative of their relationship with the Edomites. Long before that choice was made in 1988, the colors had been in use among the Agila and Igmeli. The Ifia won by the Alec. I don't know, bro. An important masquerade in most Idoma communities is also in black and red. Could it be a coincidence that these colors found prominence among the Idoma? The writer thinks it is not a coincidence. Esau is generally associated with red. The Bible was emphatic in describing Esau's reddishness, said the Bible. The first one, Esau, came out reddish, as hairy as a fur coat. They named him Esau. It is also obvious that there are many other ethnic groups in Nigeria and other parts of the world that are consciously attached to the red color. Among the ethnic nationalities in the South geopolitical zone of Nigeria, red is indeed a very popular color. My voice starting to hurt, bro. I'm sorry. From the discussions above, it is possible to suggest the presence of the descendants of Esau or Edom in Nigeria, rather than the general claim that some Nigerian tribes came from the Middle East. It can be said with some degree of certainty that the Idoma and many of the ethnic groups in Nigeria descended from Esau. Such conclusion could be derived from further evidence in the movement and location of the Edomites before and after their defeat by the Egyptian king. Okay, again, he thinks that they're the Hyksos. Let me go down because he's just going to talk about the land and stuff. Okay, the earliest hints of this postulation could be found in H.R. Palmer's work on the origin of the Igdala. According to him, Bornu, area of modern Borno state in Nigeria, was once occupied by a group called Ihel Gara. This group must have been made up of some early migrants from the land of Edom, soon after the fall of the Edomite Empire. At a time, a group which Palmer identified as Ahel Dirk trooped in from the general area of the Middle East. The new arrivals invaded and successfully subjugated the Ihel Gara. It would appear that two groups evolved in working relationship together in peace and harmony until they were in turn invaded by other forces, forcing them to migrate to the Wukari region from where they migrated to the present area occupied by the Igdala in Kogi state. There is a lure to interpret Palmer's postulation as a product of much despised Hamitic theory. The Hametosis assumes that such civilized tenets as domestication and the idea of empire building came from the East. So they're pretty much saying that, a lot of stuff has been hidden because they're trying to force everyone into being a Hamite. And they're saying, well, nothing could have came from anywhere other than the East, or from, so-called Middle Easterns, or, whiter people, right? So, a lot of stuff has been hidden for that reason. And, they're trying to write it off by saying, oh, well, the only reason why you're making up this theory is because we tried to call you Hamites. Now you're just trying to be Esau so you don't have to be Ham, and whatever they're trying to say, bro. But as we can see, there was a group that he said have to be associated with the Edomites that were in West Africa, that were in, near the Delta region. Ephraim believed that H.R. Palmer was influenced by the Hamitic theory. It is the opinion of this writer that his postulation needs further scrutiny. It is hardly in doubt that the two groups, Ahel Gara and Ahel Dirk, migrated from the general area of the Middle East. See? But they say it's Middle Eastern, but they didn't migrate from anywhere. The people from West Africa went to the Middle East. That's what it really seems like, because as we can see, their oral history is a lot more pure than anyone in the Middle East who claimed to be from the nation of Esau. As noted earlier, P.E. Okwoli had tried to trace the origin of the Igdala to the Sahara Desert. The picture that is emerging is that most of the ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, especially those that occupy the vast areas of central Nigeria and the southern part of Nigeria, migrated from somewhere in the Middle East and are more related to each other than their neighbors north of the rivers Niger and Benue. See, those people are not related to the rest of the people, but they didn't migrate from the Middle East. They went to the Middle East. They came there from South America. And that's what those people say. I shared the book with you. I'll probably make a PDF of it at a different time. But I shared that book about how they said red gods came over there and stuff like that. Right? They're talking about Esau. T.N. Tamuno even claimed that the Idoma and Igala have more in common with their neighbors to the south of the river Benue than they have with their neighbors to the north of the same river. In this consideration of the history of the Agbo, this person said it was possible that the Agbo migrated from the northern fringes of the Savannah Belt. He rejected the observation that the Agbo migrated from the Middle East, and I reject that too. But given the available postulations, one could conclude that this person was only running away from a possible Middle East origin for the Agbo. After all, the Agbo and the Idoma and many other ethnic groups in Nigeria have a lot in common. Apart from the linguistic evidence, the two groups share some common cultures as well as names. The likelihood is that the Idoma and those groups south of the rivers Niger and Benue are more likely to be historically and culturally linked than those ethnic groups to the north of the two rivers. And that's kind of like, that's not making sense to people, because like, how did they come from the Middle East if the people north of the Benue River are pretty much Ham, but these people seem to descend from some of them, or a certain amount of them seem to descend from Abraham. Why is this river why is it separating these two cultures? Why? What about it separates these two cultures? And how can the people of Abraham would be south of the river? If they came from the Middle East, then shouldn't they be north? Shouldn't it be swapped? And that's because they did not come from the Middle East. They came from somewhere else. They came from the Americas. This person's postulation concerning the origin of the Idoma seems to agree with the available linguistic evidence. According to Joseph Greenberg, the Idoma Igala and Yoruba belong to one language family, the Niger-Congo. A subgroup of the Niger-Congo language family is the Khuya language families, which includes the Idu, Agbo, Igala, Idoma, and Yoruba languages. It is probable that these groups came from one ancestral homeland and might have split long ago. Professor Armstrong suggested that the groups separated from each other between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago. Well, you don't know that, but this person agreed substantially with this view, but added that it was within the period between 4,000 years ago and the rise of the earliest of the great states of Central Sudan and the Middle Belt, that one of the earliest migrations from the Middle Belt involving the Idoma, Igala, Igbo, Ijo, Edo, and the Yoruba took place. What these claims prove is that there is a strong historical linkage between the groups mentioned therein. Captain, this person, was so obsessed with this view that he concluded that the history of the Idoma and the Igala should be traced from one perspective. He said, whatever their origin, Igara, their origin is now merged with the Akpoto or the Idoma, so that their history must be treated together. The focus of this study has been to show that indeed the Idoma could have, that the Idoma could be some of the logical remnants of the once famous Edomite Empire. The facts seem to tie into a web that could lead to the authentic history of the Idoma and other ethnic groups in Nigeria. For instance, some Idoma groups trace their ancestry to one Edom, incorrectly spelled Idom by Iram. Like the Edomites of old, the Idoma are deeply religious, revering the Almighty God even as they approach Him for assistance and sustenance, though through the other gods like Egil and Yanwu, and these different ones, ancestral worships, and many others. Like the Edomites of old, the Idoma are great hunters and attach so much importance to that when a king dies. He is said to have gone to the bush on a hunting expedition. If, as claimed by the British colonial officers, the Idoma had no central political structures, why did it take them very little time to evolve such an intricate traditional system of governance when the British reintroduced the indirect rule system? It would appear that the Idoma had been part of a larger political system and would have acquired ideas of statecraft from there. But by Iram's royal commoner how do you say this, bro? Genealogy. I'm sorry, bro. My voice is really killing me. For Adoka, a king called Idom or Edom had ruled the area between 1535 and 1565. What this means is that long before the British thought of colonizing Nigeria, the Idoma had evolved indigenous political systems that ensured the emergence of leaders in various kingdoms. For less perspective, linking the Idoma to the Edomites might seem far-fetched, but the threads are there. Religious worship, hunting, the choice of red as color, semblances in names. Edom itself means my roots, my type of person, while Adam is my father. Why is he saying all this again? I think he's just like recapping, but let's just keep going. Idoma, a name that is used interchangeably with Edom, is common among the Idoma speaking peoples until this day. Was it a coincidence that those names are commonly used among the Idoma speaking peoples? It is the opinion of this researcher that the Idoma and many other ethnic groups in Nigeria and perhaps other parts of Africa are in one way or the other related to Edom. There is always the temptation to argue that whatever the relationship existed between the Idoma and Edom could have been political. After all, the Edomite Empire was so vast and so powerful that its leaders subdued and ruled Egypt for 100 years. Again, he thinks that's the Hyksos, but But if the relationship between the two groups had been simply political, it is impossible for any Idoma group to trace its ancestry to one Edom, as is the case with the Ugbuju and Adoka communities. It does appear that soon after the collapse of the Edomite Empire in 1580 BC, the Idoma began to migrate from the Middle East. Okay, he has his timelines a bit wonky. Let me see. Does he have anything else? I think that's about it. I think that's pretty much about it. So this is this brother's article on his people. So you don't have to hear it from me, right? This is this person who actually is from the the Idoma people. This is what he wrote. Like and was he killed for this? I don't know. I hope not. Maybe he really died from natural causes, or maybe not. Anyway, we're going to stop right here, and we're going to continue at another point. And the next video, I don't know. We have so much we can talk about, man. So, until next time, may peace be with you.